Hi, Ron from Clarity. So this short video, we're going to talk about ensuring that your HIPAA integrations are compliant and cost effective. We're going to give you 4 key things to think about. So let's dive right in. Minimize the number of field mappings that you need. Sometimes people want the integration to cost less, so what they end up doing is they do generic API calls and go, give me all patient data for patient ID 1234 or patient ID Ron Halverson. And so it pulls over 300 pieces of data when in all actuality, we only needed 14 pieces of data. It costs a little more to more succinctly build a better integration, but then you're dealing with less chance of breaching more data. I saw a data breach reported where they were charging like $210 penalty per piece of data that was violated. So instead of 10,000 pieces of data, it ended up being 1.8 million pieces of data. It ended up being a huge fine. Spend more time, plan out your integration, find out the data that you actually need, and just map the minimum number of PHI fields to limit your exposure, limit your risk. Number 2, schedule your automated data integrity test. Checked often. Have regular tests where you can go through and figure out what data is being pulled. Do you have anything in there that automatically reports when there are crashes, when there's data? Is your integration solution HIPAA compliant? Remember, the data in transit is, but just like Clarity's integration platform, let's say, for example, we were moving data from an EMR to a doctor-patient portal, and the doctor-patient portal was pulled offline for service. Maybe it was just down for 2 hours to upgrade a hard drive or something. Well, our integration platform doesn't want to lose that data. What if that was a $3,000 order that came in? We're not going to throw the order away. So we move that order and we store it in a local cache until the problem can be mitigated, and then the administrator can go back in and we have automated retries for 10 retries. But if it fails after 10 retries, it moves it to a failed queue. But after mitigation, you can go in, highlight the item, and re-queue it, and it'll send it through. Well, what if our integration platform wasn't HIPAA compliant? Even though the EMR was HIPAA compliant, the portal's HIPAA compliant, maybe our database isn't encrypted. We put it into a database, and now all of a sudden we're storing PHI data in a non-HIPAA compliant fashion, and we've just violated HIPAA unknowingly. So you need to work with a developer that really understands HIPAA and whose integration platform can also be HIPAA standalone on its own. Number 3, deploy an isolated tokenization vault for EMR data. So Clarity has a HIPAA tokenization vault. It's very similar to, I've got the Chase app on my phone, and I can pull up the app and I can see my bank account. Well, there's no money on my phone, and that information from my bank account isn't on my phone. There's a token that as soon as I open the application and I authenticate, it automatically goes up to the secure vault in the cloud and says, hey, please pass me account balances for account number, whatever it is, whatever authentication they do in the app. And then it comes down and displays it on the screen for me. And then I close the app. The data is not persisted on my screen. It's not persisted on my phone because it's up in a tokenized vault. That's where the data is. That's what we're talking about with HIPAA data. I've got a number of clients that want to do things like, well, we've got information in NetSuite and some of our reps work in NetSuite. Well, NetSuite isn't HIPAA compliant. So how can we allow them to do their work when they're working with a hospital? And the way we do that is through tokenizations. We can store tokenizations in NetSuite, and then when they open up NetSuite and it goes to grab that, it's just like account balance, right? It says, hey, I need to go get this. This is patient diagnosis for patient ID 1234. It goes up into the vault, looks up patient ID 1234, looks up diagnosis, pulls the data down, displays it on the screen. Everything's HIPAA compliant, everything's secure. They're viewing that data in NetSuite. Although NetSuite isn't HIPAA compliant, that falls within the HIPAA compliance guidelines. So tokenizing HIPAA data allows you more flexibility working with additional applications. It can also possibly extend your risk factors. So you want to think about that. Make sure you work with a partner that understands HIPAA and works a lot with HIPAA. And the final one, number 4, leverage standard API frameworks that help lower those integration costs. For example, many of the different ERPs that we integrate, we've done over 4,000 integrations in the 12 and a half years that I've been here. Most of those integrations, I would say 70% of those integrations are all RESTful API. They're all using REST JSON blobs. So it's really easy for us to go grab a NetSuite connector that's written in REST and potentially port that to another connector that's using REST, and we might be able to reuse 60% of that code for some of those workflows. Obviously, the mappings may be different, the field names may be different, but a lot of that code is reusable. Well, the same is actually holding true for the EMRs that we integrate. Most of them on today's day uses Fire. For example, eClinicalWorks and Epic and Cerner and Athena, they all use Fire. Many of them use HL7. So between HL7 and Fire, we probably have coverage for, I don't know, I'm guessing 90% of the different EMRs out there. So we could have an EMR come to us tomorrow, say we need to integrate this EMR, and if it's on HL7 or Fire, anywhere from 60 to 90% of that development's already done, even though we may never have integrated that EMR before, because much of the code and the connectivity that we've done for the other EMRs are reusable for that new EMR. So again, a quick review. Number 1, map the minimum number of fields for your PHI transfer. Number 2, schedule automated data integrity tests. Number 3, deploy or use an isolated HIPAA tokenization vault. And number 4, leverage standard API frameworks to help lower your integration costs. Well, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.